I think we're in. Almost.
A very good morning, everyone. We welcome you to the Prana Interactive, an initiative by Worldview Education. For the past 10 years, Worldview has been reimagining education through experiential learning by exposing the learners to global issues. Our learning verticals focus on global citizenship, environment and conservation, health and wellness, and sustainable habitats. Of the 4 different domains, the Prana program focuses on health and wellness. Prana in Sanskrit means the life force. The program looks at rediscovering personal well-being and the idea of universal wellness. It's a journey in realizing the potential of our unique life force by exploring human experiences in nature, movement, farming, cuisines, cultures, festivals, arts, storytelling, and so on. And these are channeled through the fundamentals of the program: food, fitness, and forests. Today's topic is the science behind mind-body movement. Before we go ahead, for the benefit of the users, or sorry, the audience, I would like to introduce to the features of the webinar. Please find your webinar tools on the right-hand side of the panel. You may use the chat feature to send messages to all participants of the webinar. Send in your questions to the speakers using the questions tab. You may even choose to upvote a question if you like. Also, use the emoji icon at the bottom of the links to give you a quick reaction to the conversation. Okay, so we have with us today Dr. Mel Batson. She has done her doctorate in neuroscience from the Boston University and founded Movement Ashram in Bengaluru 2 years ago. Her research involved investigating the mechanisms of perceptual, cognitive, and motor learning in the development and fine-tuning of the neural circuits in the brain. She's a yoga teacher, also a coach, an athlete, who's involved in many sports such as running, swimming, tennis, diving, surfing, snowboarding. That's enough to create some kind of complex, Mel. If that wasn't enough, she's also an avid rock climber and a slackliner. In today's talk with her, we'll be exploring the subtle and profound aspects of movement in our physiological and psychological well-being. Welcome to a talk, Mel, Dr. Mel Batson.
Thank you, Robert.
Right, I'd like to actually start this conversation with a question. Please tell all of us your journey in the 2 worlds, the empirical nature of neuroscience and the experiential nature of yoga. How did you get there?
So actually, I began practicing yoga at the same time that I began studying neuroscience. I started working in a hospital in the neurology department, and they had a gym with yoga classes offered. And so it was purely physical reasons to join yoga, for health reasons and such. And then I kept on with the yoga and the neuroscience. And I mean, as you're getting deeper and deeper into the yoga, especially the particular type of yoga that I practiced, Kundalini yoga, which involves a lot of breathing and paying attention to how energy is moving through your different chakras. And you learn about the spine and the brain in neuroscience and how there's this direct overlap. It's almost as if yoga and neuroscience are just 2 different ways to explain the same thing, 2 sides of the same coin, you might say. And so a lot of times people who I would study with would say, how could you be so spiritual into yoga? And then people who I did yoga with are like, oh, how can you be so set in the science? And I'm like, well, you don't have to be set in the science. You don't have to only be spiritual with the yoga. They actually complement each other quite nicely. So hopefully I'll help you understand that today as well. Yeah.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to it indeed. I was quite excited. I've been looking forward to this session. It's been one of my favorite topics.
Great, mine too.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to start off. I'll be talking a lot about different concepts in neuroscience, and I'll try to have them put up some slides to keep people, give people a little bit of background of where I'm coming from. And if there is any confusion on this, we'll be able to take some questions at the end of the session. So like Arun said, you can write the questions by clicking on the questions icon on the right side. And then if you actually go in there and read the questions, you can also upvote the questions. So hopefully we'll address any confusion. But I'll try to keep it pretty simple. And first of all, exercise and your brain. So one thing I like to tell people is that your brain is like a muscle. So if you think about whether you're actively using your muscles or not, people might say use it or lose it. If you are keeping up your training regimen on your body, you'll keep up your strength and everything. But then if you don't use different parts of your body, you will lose that muscle strength. And you can think of your brain much in the same way, that when you train one specific process in your brain, it becomes stronger. And then when you don't use that process, it becomes weaker. So it's very similar to your muscles. So you can move on to the next slide. Yeah. So one thing that's important that I'll keep on coming back to in this talk is how we learn and how we think of learning as separable for, say, the motor system and the cognitive system. So a lot of people will keep it separate, this physical exercise, and not really link it back to the cognitive aspects of physical exercise. So let's go through this slide slowly. Oh, you can stay on that second slide there. You can go back. Hopefully not confusing anything. But what I was about to do was explain how we learn. And for this, I will just use an example of motor learning because I feel like most people have experienced motor learning. It's very easy to use this as an example. So if you think about how we learn, and if you look down in the left corner of this slide, it's giving you a flow chart. Problem, and you have to think about how to attack this problem, which action you can do to get to the desired goal. So say you are wanting to climb a rock, and there are certain places that you can put your hands and feet in order to let you climb this rock. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Melissa, this looks like SpaceX program at the moment.
You can hear me? You can't see me? Should I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
I hear you fine. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
I don't know why this is happening of all the times for the internet to go out. Okay. So imagine you're trying to climb this rock. So you have to plan your course of action, and then you have to try and execute this course of action. And then most likely the first time you try, you're not going to succeed fully. And so you'll have to make some adjustments to your plan and then try again. And so this is basically the steps of learning, that you're going to try something, see where the error was, and then try to fix that error to get to your desired goal. So the way that the brain deals with this is if you look at the top left where it says cerebral cortex. In blue is the area of your cerebral cortex that handles your motor. So these two areas are very much involved, whether you're doing something that is motor related or just cognitively related. So there are times when you have to make a decision that doesn't involve moving your body, that might just involve calling someone or making a decision about work. And so these are actually overlapping systems. And the way that the the brain learns is that the cerebral cortex is kind of like the student, and then this area of the brain, which is back at the base of your neck, right above the base of your neck, called the cerebellum, acts as the teacher. And so that's on the right-hand side. And you can see that there, it doesn't really matter, but basically the cerebellum is going to get a copy of your plan, what you want to execute, and then it's also going to get a copy of what actually happened. And it makes the comparison of what you wanted to do versus what actually happened, and helps to instruct the cortex on how to correct whatever you actually did to let next time get the correct answer. And so what happens is this goes back and forth until you learn the task. So say it's a motor task, say it's some way that you're going to grab the rock, right? So then you climb this route over and over and over again until it becomes automated. At this point, your motor cortex is just automatically making your hand in the correct shape to grab the rock, and your cerebellum, or the teacher, is no longer involved in this. So this is what a lot of athletes would call muscle memory. So if you have trained something like swinging a bat in a certain way, it's a muscle memory. As soon as you see a ball coming, you're going to swing that bat, and you don't have to think too much about it. Now, when we're talking about, yes, this is fine. So when we're talking about muscle memory or an automated motor sequence, and the fact that this same student-teacher relationship is involved in cognitive decisions, then this naturally leads to the fact that you can have a muscle memory and you can have an emotional memory. So in the same way that repeating the same movement over and over again, the teacher drops out and then you automatically do that movement, if you repeatedly have the same reaction to a social situation or a mental situation, your brain will be more likely to go to that response to similar stimuli. So say you are always getting frustrated, you find yourself getting frustrated about certain things in your life as a response to stimuli, and you keep putting your brain down this path of frustration, then it's more likely that when you're presented with a new stimulus, that you're actually going to automatically go down this path of frustration, even if it doesn't warrant that you go there.
Mel, I've got a question for you. Are there any other manifestations of this emotional trauma onto your physical body? Or does it actually kind of show any kind of expressions of this emotional trauma?
Yes, it's definitely well known in neuroscience and in psychology that there can be emotional manifestations of pain. So there is a linkage between chronic pain and emotional distress. And if we can go to the next slide, maybe I can talk about how this might be. So one thing we have to understand about the brain is basically everything's connected to everything, right? I mean, we do have specific parts of our brain that will control different parts of our body. So if you look here on the left side of the slide, it's highlighted in pink along that. So the left side of the slide is an image of the brain from the top of the brain, looking down from the top. And so the left is the left and the right is the right. And right along the middle line of the brain, where it's highlighted in pink, are your motor and sensory cortices. And so these specific areas of the brain control different specific areas along your body. And you can imagine that your body is laying out along the cortex so that the spatial arrangement is contained. So your stomach is next to your pelvis in your brain as well as in your body. Your fingers are next to your hand, the palm representation in your brain and on your body. And this is important because when you think about breathing through your chakras or keeping your energy flowing through the body, it's the same in the brain, that things are going to be connected. But you also have to think about that if you were going to make a motor movement or use that part of your brain to move your body, there are other aspects of your brain that will be involved, such as the frontal area we just talked about. It's going to have the planning. You'll need your occipital cortex so that you can see where you want to move, and you have to be able to plan to move there. So in the brain, takeaway here is that everything is connected to everything. So on the right side of this slide, I have an example of the areas involved in the limbic system. So when we call something a system, hopefully everything is working. When we call something a system, it's a group of different non-physically connected brain areas that work together to cause some response in you. And so the limbic system is responsible for our emotions. So sadness, anger, fear are all controlled by these brain areas on the right side. And so you can see that there is some overlap, especially in the prefrontal cortex. And so once you start having these chronic emotional distresses, it's very easy to make this go backwards. Let's make this more simple. So say you're stuck in the rain and you get soaked. This physical discomfort of being wet makes you uncomfortable and might make you sad. And that's an example of a true external force that is actually giving you discomfort. If you walk into a table and you kick your shin, then this is a physical discomfort that's going to make you in pain. And the way that this signal goes to the brain to make the limbic system respond in a sad or painful way can go the other way. So you can be sad or in some sort of emotional pain and have that pain be manifest in, say, your lower back or your neck. A lot of people hold a lot of tension there. So a lot of times if you've been to a therapist, or if you've been to someone a masseuse, or anybody who's working with your muscles, they might say, oh, you're holding a lot of pain here. And they don't necessarily mean physical pain. It could be mental pain that's manifested in your body.
That's a very interesting take. How do we actually realize if it's a real pain or is it an emotional expression of that pain?
Yeah, can we go to the next slide, actually? And I'll talk about, so it is well known that stress is bad for us, right? So in this new figure on the bottom here, it's showing the pain pathway and how stress can trigger any one of these parts of the pain pathway. And then that just, it goes on its own loop. So whether the stress is triggering the pain pathway physically in your body and making your muscles tighten up, then your brain's going to see that your muscles are tight, and then it's going to make you stressed out mentally. And the same opposite is true. So if you're mentally stressed out, then that can make your muscles tighten up. So it's just this loop, right? And actually I'm going to very, very lightly talk about this. It's an HPA axis. It's called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And this is the main three parts of your brain which are involved in a stress response, right? And activation of this response actually releases a hormone called cortisol into the blood, or a steroid called cortisol. And you might have heard about cortisol. It's great if you are in a situation where you need to fight or flee, if you're actually in a real stressful situation that's threatening your life, because this is going to help you react in a way that's necessary by letting you run faster or fight harder. Your muscles are ready to react. However, you can also think that if you're in a situation that is not physically threatening, you do not need to run faster. Your heart doesn't need to beat faster. Your muscles don't need to tense up, but you're responding in this stressful way with stimulus, which is not stressful. And that's when it becomes problematic, right? So basically, to answer your question, it's important for us to maintain a non-stressful baseline in our life so that we can know the state of our body when we are not stressed out, or when we do not have some sort of emotional pain that's coming in as a physical pain. So starting off by trying to have as little stress in your life as possible, and address things that you perceive as stressful, and to either that they are stressful and you actually have to address them, or maybe you address them and they're not. You think about them and they're not stressful. So that's the baseline that you have to set in order to be able to tell if it's an emotional pain or a real physical pain. And we'll actually go into a little bit more later when I show you some exercises that you can do on a daily basis to test and treat imbalances in your body. So since it's important to know your body and how it feels when you're relaxed, and it's Sunday morning, I thought we could break here and do a short breathing exercise. So everyone can participate in this. You don't even need a yoga mat. We're just going to sit and observe our breath for a minute or so. So just sit comfortably. I recommend sitting cross-legged, but if that doesn't make you comfortable, that's totally fine. You can sit with your legs out. Just make sure that your back can be straight and your arms and your shoulders can be rested. So either resting them on your legs, or if you're in a chair, just nicely resting them on the arm rests. And if you can all close our eyes and try to make your back as straight as possible. So try to sit on your sit bones, sitting directly on your butt, and then try to stack your spine. So as you inhale the first time, inhale very deeply, and try to imagine that your spine is building up on this pillow of air that you're bringing into your stomach. So you're inhaling very deeply. The air is coming in, and as you inhale, you're getting taller and taller. If you want to, you can raise your hands above your head to help facilitate lengthening the spine. On a deep inhale, and as you finish the inhale, open your chest and really fill all the way up with the air. Feel the presence of air and energy inside of your body. And then as you slowly exhale, try to keep your spine lengthened and just let the air out from the bottom of your stomach, from the base of your stomach, up through all of your spine and out of your mouth. And do this a few more times. Now that your spine is elongated, you can practice diaphragmatic breathing, which is basically breathing into the diaphragm very deeply. So by placing the left hand on the chest and the right hand on the stomach, and inhaling very deeply, and your right hand should come out with your stomach while your left hand should stay about the same place. So inhale very deeply, hold it for a minute, observe fullness of the air and energy, and then exhale. And keep on doing this as I'm talking. Inhale, keeping the spine erect. Exhale. And as you're doing this, you should try to notice the feeling of the energy and how the effect that the breath is having on your body, if any. You might feel a lightness or a tingling that's coming in and out of your stomach, a lightness or a tingling flowing along your extremities as you get more and more into the breath. And with each breath, hopefully, you are feeling a little bit more relaxed. And this is the first step of being able to sit and breathe and observe the situation within yourself. So we'll do a few more of these breaths. And on the last exhale, you can rub your hands together before you open your eyes. Rub your palms together to make them warm, and then place them over your eyes and inhale. And when you exhale, open your eyes and breathe the energy out and look at your palms. And I'll tell you why we did that later. One thing that I noticed last night when I had the hiccups, that I usually do diaphragmatic breathing to try and stop my hiccups. If you don't know what hiccups are, they're caused by imbalance in your diaphragm and imbalance in the pressure between your lower and upper abdomen, right? And so basically, if you do diaphragmatic breathing, you're bringing attention to this location of your body and calming that location down because you don't want it to be freaking out. So you can try that the next time you have hiccups. So I'm
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm hoping everyone's chill now, and that's basically the neuropsychological basis of why exercise and mindful exercise are good for us. If you can take a few moments to really be mindful of yourself and your body, you can learn a lot from it, and you can also fix a lot of problems very easily.
If I may remind the audience that you may please go ahead and post your questions as we go. Just a reminder. Well, back to you, Melissa. That's quite interesting, a point about hiccups. I never thought of it. The idea of meditation is something which has been around for a long time, and we all possibly realize how it actually manifests in your physical body. But is meditation the only way out? Is there anything else we could actually do?
No, meditation is not the only way. And that's actually part of the reason I started my company, Movement Ashram, was because I love to do yoga, but I realized that yoga and meditation are not the route that everyone wants to take. And I do a lot of other sports where I find that you enter this flow state, such as slacklining, climbing even, where through movement, you're actually becoming very, very in touch with your body, and you're able to reach this very similar state to meditation. But movement and breath are very important precursors for meditation. So that with the practice of yoga, usually what you will do is you'll do some asanas and you'll do some pranayama to prepare yourself to sit and meditate. So obviously there's some portion of this breath control that is meditative in itself. And breath is actually movement. If you're thinking about it, you're inhaling and exhaling, everything is moving, and you're paying attention to this very micro movements of your body, even during meditation. So it makes sense that you could extrapolate this to some more macro types of movements. And a lot of practices actually focus, just like yoga and meditation, on the breath control as part of the movement. So such as yoga, martial arts, at most martial arts, when you make some movement, you're inhaling or exhaling. And swimming, obviously, you have to be in control of your breath, otherwise you will drown. So breath in itself is the basis for all movement. And then movement and mindfulness of your breath can lead you to a meditative state. So very much like in the brain, where I said that every part of the brain is connected to every other part of the brain, within your body, everything is connected to everything. And I'm going to talk here briefly about chakras to talk about how everything is connected to everything. So hopefully you guys can see. I'll explain it, but on the left, it's showing the different chakras from red to purple, which is from your lowest chakra to your highest chakra. And so the places that the chakras are aligned along the spine are medically related to the effects that they might have on your body, right? Let me just see. So, oops. Oh no, I'm losing everything. So if you think about the connectedness of the brain, like I said, that there are different, sorry about this, too many things on my computer screen. I said that there are different, all of the areas of your body are next to each other in relationship on the brain, and all of the different, so all of the length of the spine controls all of these neighboring areas, right? And then as you go along the spine, you have all of these different chakras, which are also directly related to the area that they are located, right? So say your root chakra, which is chakra number 1, the red chakra, and that's your base chakra. It's closest to the earth. It's your grounding chakra, and it's like obviously the root. It's the most important thing to bind you to this earth, basically. And also where it's located is around your butt, right? And so if you have some problems with your grounding, with your how you feel in your current situation or in your current location, you might find yourself having some problems with elimination. And that's directly related to the emotional affecting your physical, right? And similarly with your solar plexus chakra, which is the 3rd chakra from the bottom, and that's around your belly button. And this chakra is very important for confidence and motivation. So if you're having a big presentation that you have to do, or if you're having to face some fear that you'll need bravery to go forth and do, then you'll need this chakra to be flowing correctly. And if it's blocked, you might have some problems with this. You might have some problem with your willpower or your desire to actually achieve something that you know that you can achieve. And that's the emotional aspect of the block chakra. And then you also might have problems with your digestion. A lot of people will stress eat or not eat enough or just have stomach aches when they have something that they have to do that is a little bit intimidating. So this can go on and on. Basically, if you think about your heart chakra, that's pretty much the most obvious one. The heart chakra is good for giving and receiving and love and understanding other people, being empathetic, for instance. And if that chakra is blocked, you might be having trouble with relationships, not just love relationships, but just regular relationships with other people. So there's some examples of how the location of the chakra can affect you, both mentally and physically. And then there's different ways that the chakras can be blocked, right? So let's take the throat chakra, for instance. So the throat chakra is helping you to speak up for yourself, speak out for yourself, be very clear in your speech. And so we have two different sides of our bodies, the left side and the right side, the moon side and the sun side. So if the chakra is too much to the moon side, what's happening is that we're not having enough. So say if your throat chakra is too much to the left, then you will have trouble speaking up for yourself. You'll have trouble communicating your ideas clearly. And if your throat chakra is too much to the right, you might have trouble with talking all the time and not meaning anything, of being overly bossy or something like that, using your chakra too much. So it's very important for the chakras to be balanced, and then also for them to be open. So not just balanced, but open, so that when you are talking clearly, that you're actually getting the influence from all of the chakras. So each of the chakras are responsible for one different part, one different aspect of your personality and your ability to interact with the world. And if they're all open and balanced, then everything will flow very nicely. So this is a connection of physical and mental. And we know that exercising and movements such as yoga have benefits for our physical body. We know these benefits to be improved heart function, improved lung function, these sort of physical aspects of the benefits of exercise. But now I want to ask you guys a question. What do you think the emotional or mental benefits of movement might be? And I believe we have a link in the chat space that you can click on. Is that there for them to click? And then you can enter in the first word that comes to your mind when you think of a mental or emotional benefit of movement. And we'll see what we can get. I'll give you guys a minute or two to figure that out. Oh, cool. So we've got relaxed, alertness, energetic, better moods, mental peace, clearer mind, happiness. Yeah. Yeah, these are all great. So we do know that one of the most known benefits of exercise is happiness, or decreases in depression, because a lot of people, if you are very, very physically active, you get these endorphins that are released into your body, and endorphins stimulate the dopamine and serotonin pathways, and those are the neurotransmitters, natural chemicals in your brain that are responsible for happiness. So a lot of people who run might have heard of something called a runner's high. And if you run for a long time, you kind of get into this groove. You're not really thinking about running. And when you're done, you feel elated, like I feel elated. And that's because of these endorphins pumping through your system. But other things that you might get, which some people did mention, like attention, improved concentration, and memory. So the fact that you're increasing the blood flow through your body is also increasing the blood flow through your brain. And more blood means more oxygen, which means healthier neurons, right? And that helps you increase your focus. It increases your ability to multitask. And it decreases, you won't become as frustrated because you're happier. And usually happy people are less frustrated. And in addition to this, because of this increased blood flow and attention, you can increase the speed and accuracy of mental processing. So it becomes easier and faster for you to think about things. Your brain isn't kind of as slow and sludgy. So one thing that I want to talk about is the difference between movement and learning new movements. So like challenging yourself. So if you do a yoga course, you might do the same movements over and over again. And I'm not saying that it's bad for you to have a system or something that you go through. But in addition, it's great for you to try new things, introducing, say, new poses into your yoga regimen, or even introducing whole new sports or new activities. And basically what happens is when, if we can go back to slide 2, maybe, just as the one with the cerebellum and the cortex. So as you learn new movements, then you'll reopen up this student-teacher relationship that I had mentioned earlier, where the cerebellum is now once again helping the cortex to learn, to fix its errors. And once you open up the student-teacher relationship, the great thing is that it's not limited to the location that's presently learning. So say I'm learning a new climbing route and I'm really trying, and I've opened up the student relationship between the cerebellum and the motor cortex. That relationship is open for my entire brain. So say I'm climbing in the morning, and then later on I'm going into office and I need to focus on creating something new, just creating something new, then my frontal cortex is also open for this learning signal from the cerebellum. So what's actually happening is that the learning that you're doing with your physical body is directly affecting the ability for you to learn in the cognitive space or in the emotional space. And so this actually means that learning new movements can be a helpful therapy tool for people with things like depression or anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder, where you want to retrain your cognitive brain to not have these negative emotional responses that may or may not manifest as physical responses, but you want to retrain this emotional rut that you've come into so that you can get out of it. You can stimulate this by learning a new movement. It also helps to aid in the rewiring of your brain circuits after a traumatic brain injury. So if you've been in an accident and your brain is injured and it needs to rewire because there's now injured brain matter, learning some new movement can also help to accelerate this recovery time, which is great. And lastly, it will help prevent brain aging. So if you're getting up there in years and you want to stave off Alzheimer's or any other sorts of memory loss, as we talked about before, your memory is increased when you keep active and when you learn new things. So if you keep challenging yourself physically, this will hopefully help your mental state as well. So hopefully that was all pretty clear. And I'm just going to go through some examples of poses and movement and meditation sequences. I'm going to talk about them and show them. So if you want to, if you feel like it, you can try and move along. But I'm just going to go through it pretty quickly. Hopefully at some point in the future, we can have a session where specifically for either movement or meditation or reflection. I'm just trying to do a summary here. So we already talked about breathing. Breath is your first avenue and easiest avenue into being more mindful of yourself and understanding your body in its natural and relaxed state, right? So there are different types of breathing that you can do that will help you to figure out if you are balanced and to help you become more balanced. So one thing that I can talk to you about is figuring out if you're more on the left side today or on the right side today. And I don't know if my thing will show, but basically you're going to lay down on your back and you're going to breathe deeply into your stomach. And then when you breathe out of your stomach, like push in your stomach to try and push the air up. This is called the breath of fire. And if you do that while you're laying on your back, can, raise your head and your legs about 6 inches off the ground. And continue this for 2 or 3 minutes. And at the end, put your hands together like this in a circle and place this circle over your belly button. And you should be able to feel your heartbeat. You should be able to feel your heart beating underneath your fingers. And you should be able to feel if your heartbeat is a little bit to the left side or to the right side of your belly button. And so depending on which side you're feeling the heartbeat, that is the side that you are a bit more skewing towards today, whether the left side be the moon side or the right side is the sun side. So once you figure that out, what do you want to do? You want to balance, right?
If I may interrupt, there's a safety question here. Is it okay for people with asthma to practice this?
Yes. Before practicing this, though, I would probably do an intro breath exercise like the one that we did earlier, just concentrating on your breath and feeling how it feels within you right now. Yeah. And also keeping an eye on the breath. So part of the thing with asthma is that you're having uncontrolled reactions to your breath. And so actually doing these sorts of exercises can help you to be in control of your breath. And so if you feel like you're nervous about doing it, another way to attack this is to just simply do box breathing from the left side and from the right side. I'm going to talk about this right now. And if you just do it both ways, then it should even you out. So take it at your own. I would rather do like a personal session with someone who has asthma to directly address whatever their issue is. But basically, if you want to just balance out without checking, you can do one of 2 breathing exercises. It's the Surya or the Chandra Beta. And what that is breathing in through one nostril, holding it in, and then exhaling through the other nostril and holding it out. And this is also called box breathing, where you're inhaling for a certain amount of time, holding it in for a certain amount of time, exhaling for a certain amount of time, and then holding it out for a certain amount of time. And it's ideal that you would make these lengths of inhale, holding, and exhaling longer and longer as you increase your practice. You can start out with like inhaling for 3 seconds, holding for 2 seconds, exhaling for 3 seconds, holding for 2 seconds, and then try to slowly increase the amount of time that you're doing each of these. And just like with every breath breathing exercise, observing the state of yourself internally and directly externally in each of these states of inhaling the breath, holding it in, exhaling, and holding it out. So I was a little bit over to the left side. So what I would do is I would inhale through my right nostril. If you want to do it yoga style, you place your your 2 pointer and middle finger on your Ajna chakra, and then you use your thumb to hold your right nostril and your ring finger to hold your left nostril. So I would inhale through the right, hold it, exhale through the left, and hold it out. And continue this box. Hold it. For at least 3 or 4 rounds until I felt like I was more calm or less calm because I'm on the left. And if you had the opposite, if you were more active on the right side, then you want to do breathing in through the left and out through the right. So that's another example. And I actually have a lot of things. We're running short on time and I want to have time for questions. So I do have some things posted up on Instagram and on YouTube specifically. There's a wake up series that would directly relate to what we're talking about getting up on the right side of the bed, doing this sort of breathing exercise and feeling your energy first thing when you get up in the morning so that you can understand how you feel from the get-go and then base the rest of your day on this. So another thing that we can do to help ourselves balance is to move our bodies. So there are different chakra stimulating poses. If we can go back to slide 5 really quickly. I'm just going to mention them and I'll show you. There's not really enough time for you guys to do these, but any pose where you are opening your root chakra to the ground, so like a horse stance or a warrior pose is going to make the connection between my root chakra and the ground able to be stronger. So that's going to help strengthen my root chakra if that's what's feeling weak. If you do something that's more actively bringing your chakra close to the ground, then this is going to move it up to the sacral chakra. So like a side lunge will help out your sacral chakra, or a half split or a split will be more of a sacral chakra thing. One thing that I do find people really want is confidence and a quick ability. So say you're in the office and you're feeling, oh, I'm really stressed out. I have this meeting. I have to do this presentation. I need to get myself some energy. Try doing the breath of fire and then doing some sacral twists, right? So if you just cross one leg over the other, you can even do this sitting in your office chair. Inhale your arms up and twist towards the leg that's on the top. And just, so now you're twisting your middle, lower spine, and that's right where that chakra is. So then switch to the other side. So anything where you're twisting like that, even if you're twisting in a warrior pose, it's going to help your root chakra and your sacral, so all of those lower chakras. And if you want to simulate a chakra that's higher up, like the heart or the throat chakra, that's where inversions start to come in very helpful. A heart chakra can be stimulated by just opening your chest. So pretty much any movement that you do where you open your chest is going to help that chakra, like placing your arms behind your head, grasping the hands here, and inhaling is opening up the chest. So that's going to stimulate and give energy to your heart chakra. Doing the cobra pose is going to stimulate your heart chakra. When you want to get up higher, like your throat and third eye chakras, inversions become helpful because gravity. So if we want, the basic idea is that we're trying to get the energy from down in our root to flow freely up to our crown chakra. And we can do that very simply by doing, say, a forward fold. An inversion is any asana that gets your highest chakra lower than your lowest chakra. So when I bend over, my crown chakra is going below my root chakra, and that's perfect. So you don't have to be a fancy headstander or handstander to get the benefits of inversions. Downward dog is an inversion. Plow pose is an inversion. So even the bridge pose, which is great for other chakras, will eventually have the energy flowing down to your throat and your crown chakra. And as we're talking about energy and flowing, there are other aspects sports or activities that you can do besides yoga where you can feel the same kind of flow in a more dynamic sort of way, such as animal flow, dancing, poi spinning, juggling, kendama, slacklining, just anything where you're doing some motion with your body where you're really having to pay attention to different parts of your body and be in the moment as you're doing the sport, where you can't think about something else. You're going to be in the moment, paying attention to your mind and body. So the last thing, once you are breathing and moving, this is going to lead you to a meditation or a reflective state. And I know we're talking right now about how movement can help out with your body, but we also talked about getting into emotional ruts and trying to find the difference between a real pain and a emotionally related pain. So one of the best ways, I think, to do this is to keep a log or be able to reflect on your actions or your reactions. So like a lot of people have probably heard, you can't change the things that happen to you in life, but you can change the way that you respond to the things that happen to you in life. But you can't change these if you don't know how your response is faulted. So one way to do this is by a practice called pratyahara. And basically what that is to reflect on your day's events. You can do this in the evening, maybe after dinner, before you go to sleep. Have a time where you sit comfortably and think about your day's events. Try to think about one or two instances that might have happened today where you were not happy with your response to that incident. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative response that you had. Maybe you were too happy about something that you didn't need to be that happy about. And by addressing this, don't chastise yourself or yell at yourself for your response. Just understand that this is how you responded and try to think about a different way that you might respond that might make you feel better than you felt after you had this response. And by doing this day after day, you can also keep a journal and write this down. You might start to notice some some trends, some things that keep happening, or some way that you keep responding, overreacting or underreacting to something. And that's the first step to being able to change, noticing what is wrong or what is not going the way that you want it to do. So pratyahara is a very good way to just, it's basically reflection on yourself, reflection on your actions, and hopefully helping yourself to move forward and decrease the amount of physical pain that you get related to your emotions. So we don't have time to meditate today, but we do have time to take a few questions.
Lovely. I've been capturing these questions. One of the questions with the highest number of votes is the fake it till you make it process a good idea to avoid the cycle of pain induced through stress and stress-induced pain?
Yes, I believe that the fake it till you make it does work, but also this depends greatly on intentions. So if you are faking it without ever really wanting to make it, then you're not going to make it. But a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's very hard for me to meditate. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out how to do it." It took me a very long time to understand how to meditate, and I tried many, many different ways. But if I hadn't kept on trying and saying, "Okay, well, I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes and see what happens," and nothing happens, I'm faking it until I finally realized how I personally was able to overcome all of the stuff going on in my brain and quiet that down. So I think that it's very important for you're faking it, but also you're trying to figure out how you can make it, right? Does that make sense? So if you just give up all the time because you're not making it, then that doesn't make any sense. Is that a clear answer?
Looks like it. Let's say they would fake it well. The next question is, there are various thoughts on Kundalini. The master yogis usually warn not to exercise this without a proper teacher or a guru. It can be very complex, can result in mind and body disorientation. This is on the practice of Kundalini.
Yes, there are many different, more involved practices with Kundalini, but the stuff that I'm telling you, like box breathing and breath of fire, it's a fairly safe practice. Many people use these types of breaths even for athletes, like when you're training athletes for how to increase their maximum oxygen capacity and such. These are used in that kind of way without the spiritual aspect of it. So I think that there are more advanced courses that I would do to, say, increase the breath of fire, waking up the Kundalini in different ways that are using more aggressive techniques that I don't normally just tell everyone.
Thank you. Next question. How will an individual realize his chakras are not balanced, and how to experience that they are getting balanced?
So this is going to help out with the pratyahara that I was talking about of when you're recording your reactions to something. And so a lot of what, hopefully we can do another session where we talk more in depth about each individual chakra and how it is related to emotional states or physical manifestations of those emotional states. But basically, you can find this kind of image online, which is going to tell you what kind of emotional issues are handled by different chakras. So even if you cannot feel physically or spiritually the balance or imbalance in your chakras, you might be able to see it, how it's manifesting in your life. So if you are saying, "Oh, today I didn't talk to the boss about this again," or "Today Kathy took my lunch and I didn't say anything again," and this happens over and over, you say, "Oh, I'm not speaking up for myself. My throat chakra must be unbalanced. Let's try and address that." And if you're keeping up with some sort of practice every day that's supposed to be keeping you balanced, then hopefully it won't be that everything is out of balance. It will be that like it's very easy for you to figure out where this issue is located.
All right, that's good enough, I believe. The next one is any quick tips for the corporate workers to handle stress through breathing or related smaller exercises that can be done in the office. I think these are for desk-bound professionals.
Yeah. So, I mean, the confidence builder, twisting yourself, that's one thing. Another thing that is, I find, like stressful, or when you're having stress or nervousness, we store it a lot in our face and our neck. So doing a lot of smaller exercises where you're either rolling your shoulders, shrugging one shoulder up, back and forth to try and release the tension in your shoulders, rolling your neck around to release the tension in your neck, right? And then there are different pressure points on your face that you can touch. So your sinuses are in different places. You have sinuses here, and you have a sinus here that you can press in, here, and here. And basically the way that you find them, it's like it's a little kind of divot, and when you press on it, it hurts. And if it hurts, then you know you're in the right place. So just apply a little bit of pressure as you're breathing. I'm doing this very quickly because I know we don't have that much time. At least one good inhale and one good exhale for each pressure point should help you relax without having to even leave your desk or do anything crazy.
The next one is quite interesting. My body is hard as a stick. How to increase flexibility to do these asanas?
It's going to take time. You're not going to overnight become super flexible. But again, it's the fake it till you make it, or keep trying till you make it. Just do as much as you can. Trying to do more asanas, trying to figure out which ones fit your body and its current state, and focus on trying to do those, say 4 or 5 different stretches. And then once you start to loosen up in those stretches, then trying to move to more advanced stretches or more advanced versions of those stretches. For most asanas, as long as you're trying. So I know my dad, like, he can't even sit with his legs out. He has to have his legs up, right, when he sits. And when he reaches, it's like this. That's fine. If that's what he can do, that's what he can do. And then each time that I see him, it's getting a little better, you know? So try and also be in touch with your body, your tight body, your loose body, whatever. You're going to be breathing in, and then on the exhale, you're going to try and go a little bit deeper. And then inhaling, and on the exhale, you're going to try and go a little bit deeper. And give yourself time, and just like with meditation, just like with everything else, with the pratyahara, don't chastise yourself. Don't say, oh, I'm so inflexible. Or don't say, oh, I can't meditate because I can't stop my brain. This is the opposite of what your goal is. So say, okay, this is how much I could stretch today. Or, okay, these things are in my brain. And not, you can acknowledge that there might be a negative thought in there, but don't focus on that. Like, acknowledge it and let it go. So another.
Right. We got 2 more questions. I'll take the first one of these. It's coming from a school teacher. Can you suggest some prana for students attending virtual classrooms? I assume it's more to do with, de-stressors for young people having a lot of screen time.
Yeah, pranayama, like, with the screen time, obviously closing their eyes and being disconnected but still audibly connected is nice. And maybe, I haven't worked with young children and meditation, but maybe something that's involving some sort of mantra or chanting, because that would help to keep them engaged. You would be able to know that they are engaged, and it can have a very relaxing effect. So just the repetitiveness of, like, I don't know how to instruct a child to let a thought go. Like, maybe that's not going to be something that you can tell them to do. But if while they're trying to do the breath and the meditation, if they are saying something over and over again, then that their brain is occupied in saying the mantra or doing the chants and taking the breath. So hopefully something along those lines would help.
Thank you. The next one is, would you suggest affirmations for rewiring? I assume it's more to do with positive affirmations for rewiring of the of the brain.
What type of affirmations?
I think it's more to do with, it's possibly going in line with the idea of fake it, or possibly telling yourself, giving yourself positive affirmations to rewire your own, or maybe conditioning yourself. That's what I assume from the question.
So, like giving yourself personal affirmations, I guess, is good to kind of like reward yourself for thinking in a certain way. Is that?
Looks like it. She says yes.
Okay. So yes, obviously it's good to pat yourself on the back when you come up with a different way to think about something when you've been stuck in an emotional rut. And also just thinking of that other way does not mean you're out of that emotional rut. But yes, so associating a positive feeling with the way that you want it to go towards change is definitely a great thing. I mean, the reward system of your brain is controlled by dopamine. Again, this is very neuroscientific, but so if you give yourself a reward or someone else is rewarding you for good or bad behavior, you're going to increase the frequency of that behavior, most likely. So
she's just brought in some clarity to the question. It is a thought creates a situation to change the thought through affirmations. Okay, if you're in a situation, I'm trying to kind of paraphrase this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're caught up in a situation, would thinking change the situation for you through affirmations?
So I'm following.
The thought creates a situation to change a thought. Okay, it's quite cyclic. I think
maybe there's not a situation where you're perceiving there to be a like there's no problem, but you perceive there to be a problem. Is that?
Or it's
no.
Okay.
I'm not understanding.
Ramaji, would you like to explain yourself?
Yeah, I'm also reading the questions now. I still don't understand. Yeah. So are you thinking like, should I acknowledge that the pain is from my thoughts? Is that the question? She says, I create a pain in my body through thought. And so in order to change that, you do have to acknowledge, or you don't have to, but it's helpful to acknowledge that this emotion is responsible for this pain. Yes, and it can also help you to let it go. Yes. So basically by affirming that this thought is the cause of the pain, that's the first step. And the fact that you need to let go of the thought, and you need to let go of the pain, and you need to let go of the pain to let go of the thought. They're connected. So there's actually a practice called Grinberg practice, and it's what they do is they find different parts in your body where you might be storing some pain, and as they're pressing on that part of your body, they'll ask you what thoughts are coming to your head. So like when I press here, what do you think of? And a lot of times it is something that might have been bothering you for a long time, like even something from childhood. And they'll say, okay, as I'm pressing here, it's becoming more painful as you're thinking of this thought. And what I want you to do is at the same time, let go. I'm going to let go of this part of your body, and I want you to let go of the thought as well. And so like really trying to focus yourself that these two are connected, and that when you let one go, the other should also go. Again, this can be something that's like fake it till you make it, but it is realistically there. And you have to let go of both, because if you think you let go of your brain, but it's still here, it's just going to crawl right back into your brain. If you think you let go of here, but it's still in your brain, it's going to crawl right back into your shoulder. So you want to get rid of both manifestations of this.
Right. There's a positive affirmation here now. All right. I think we're done with our questions, and audiences who possibly have more questions, you can always write to us. And with this, I would like to thank Miss Melissa Batson for her time with us today. It's been a quite insightful talk for us, and especially for me, it was. Yeah, the preventive measures or possibly recognizing why and how hiccups happen was quite intriguing for me. And again, from Worldview, we'd like to thank you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for all audiences, you can always reach us through our website. You can also, check out our social media handles. And we will also love to hear from you if you're interested in, helping us curate more interesting topics for you. And also tune in for the next program, which is up for the next Sunday. Look forward to see you there. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.